We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some off-season trade speculation. Today we're talking about teams like the Montreal Canadiens, Vancouver Canucks, Anaheim Ducks, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, plus the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. And we have some updates on the GM search in Los Angeles. It seems like they've found their guy, and he's likely going to be announced in the next day or two, plus big updates on the New York Islanders search for GM president role. Lots of names that are in and out, and lots of speculation of who may be leading the way for that role as well. Plus, we also have some big updates from the Stanley Cup playoffs, including Max Domi being fined for a big hit at the end of last night's game against the Florida Panthers. And the Carolina Hurricanes have now taken a strangling hold on the Washington Capitals, one win away from the Eastern Conference Final. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. First, as usual, let's start with some updates from the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, yesterday we already talked about the Winnipeg-Dallas game since it was on early. The Florida-Toronto game was still going last night as I posted last night's video. So, of course, we didn't know the outcome there. But, of course, the Panthers take that one 2-0 and have now tied the series. Obviously, it's been very much a home series for both teams. Toronto winning both their home games, Florida now winning both of their home games to even things up. But there's certainly some, I think, concerning trends for Toronto and how they've gotten away from their game, and I think some promising things for the Panthers and how they've seemed to have found theirs here as of late. I know from the Florida side of things, Sergei Bobrovsky has gotten a lot better as the series has gone on. The workload has also been a little bit lower, but he had a couple of really good games there at home in Florida and is playing much better. If he keeps that up, that could be a problem. Of course, for Toronto, the Panthers are definitely generating more, a little bit stronger defensive play, and overall just look a little bit, more engaged, you could say, than they did in Toronto. Especially that second game, I thought the Panthers looked a little sleepy, but they've been a lot closer to their old form these past couple games once the series shifted to their home barn. And, of course, from Toronto's side, lots of people are asking what is going on with Austin Matthews. They can't accept the fact anymore that he's playing good defensive hockey considering what he gets paid and the fact that he's paid to do the thing that is the most difficult thing to do, is score goals. And he's, has a career high of 69 goals, but yet the thing he has struggled with, along with Marner, is they're not bad playoff performers. They just have struggled in the playoff games when they've mattered most. Like early in the first round, before they're facing elimination and all that, they typically have better stats. You look at games like 6 and 7, or even into the second round, which they only made it once 2 years ago. That's when the things kind of dip down. It gets harder, less time and space, and it just creates more of a struggle for them. Lots of debate of whether or not Matthews is battling an injury, which I would say he probably is, but we're never going to probably know that until their playoffs are over and we learn more about them. But certainly, lots of people wondering about Matthews. At this time of year, all the teams that are left are really good. No matter who you are and what team you're on, you're getting tough matchups. A lot of the other top players are finding ways to produce. Where is Matthews, and when is he going to break through is the big question Leaf fans have on their mind. I know at the end of last game, things were getting a little, more than chippy, you could say. Max Domi's been fined $5,000 just as the buzzer was going in the last couple seconds of the game. Big scrummel ensued along the boards. Domi came up from behind and checked Captain Barkov into the boards. He was given a 5-minute major for boarding. Of course, it was at the buzzer, so really not much discussion around it. And of course, then he was fined $5,000 as well. I didn't think it was suspendable. Barkov seemed to be okay. Paul Maurice, I think, confirmed as well after that he thought he was all right. So that part is good, I guess, for Florida. I know as that happened, Matthew Tkachuk was on the bench threatening the Leaf bench. It looked like I couldn't tell if he was talking to Nylander or Matthews because they were both pretty close together, both kind of leaning over. It looked like he was talking to Willie, but it couldn't say 100%. Even pointed a stick at him and said, I'm going to get you. So basically saying, you're coming after our captain. We're going to start going after your top players. I know Leaf players Leaf fans, probably already feel like they've been targeted enough because there's been lots of big hits for sure. But we know Florida is like that. They are very much a Goonie type team. They are one of the dirtier teams in the league. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do try to do something in the next game. But at the same time, they got to focus on winning the game. That's first and foremost. And if they get too focused on revenge tactics, they're going to probably hurt themselves in the long run. So we'll see. But obviously, a little stressful now for the Leafs, who had their fan base feeling pretty confident after a 6-game series win in round 1, off to a 2-0 start in round 2. But now things are kind of tightened up here. So we'll see how they respond to a very important Game 5 coming up here. They'll have an extra day break as well. So that should help. They won't play for another day. So we'll see what happens. And the next one, the Canes took a 3-1 series stranglehold on the Washington Capitals. Tonight was a big 5-2 victory. That was a very frustrating game for the Capitals. You could tell after getting shut out in the last game, they didn't get their first goal till late into this one as well. The Canes have been playing reminiscent defense of what we used to see out of the Devils a long time ago. Very boring hockey, but very effective, shutting down the other team. The Capitals clearly frustrated, got themselves into penalty trouble a couple times. Ovechkin did eventually get one when the Canes get into penalty trouble on a 5-on-3. Chychrun scored as well, but the Canes take a 5-2 victory in that one. And now, of course, they're heading back to Washington. Washington does have home ice, but they're going to have to win a game in Raleigh, which they've yet to do if they're going to have a chance to come back in this one and beat them in 7 games, because that's what it would take at this point. So we'll see. Now, as I mentioned, some other speculation around the NHL today around some executive openings. We'll start with the Los Angeles Kings. We have multiple reporters, including Frank Cirelli and Elliot Friedman. And I think Rod Peterson was the first on it as well. He was earlier in the day mentioned it. I was waiting for maybe somebody with a little more credibility to confirm it, but it looks like Ken Holland is going to be the next general manager for the Los Angeles Kings, and it sounds like they're probably going to announce that. It could come as early as tomorrow, could be later in the week. We don't know 100% when the team will announce it, but all indications are that it's a pretty well a done deal, if not officially done deal, just not announced yet. We know that Rob Blake had stepped away. They mutually agreed to part ways. I think the team thought he was going to want to come back and get a new contract, but I'm not sure if he thought perhaps maybe the team wasn't going to go and offer him a new one. It's hard to say where things kind of broke down on that, but either way, Blake is out. They need a new general manager. We know Marc Bergevin, who's been working with the team for a few years since he's been out of Montreal as an advisor, might have had an inside track there, but it didn't seem like they were likely going to hire internally for that post. Of course, Ken Holland, once he's been 25 or 26 years as a general manager in the NHL, this past season was the first one, and he hasn't been in a really long time, and of course worked for the league in a different capacity, and now he looks to be getting back. He's 69 going on 70 years old. I don't know. To me, Ken Holland, his time at Edmonton wasn't that great. I know the team went to the finals last year, but is Ken Holland really going to get a whole lot of credit for that roster? I mean, to be honest, I really think the last 6 months he was there, I really don't think he was calling the shots anyway. I think Jeff Jackson was doing most of the business, or kind of dictating what they were going to do. And then, of course, Jackson eventually brought on Stan Bowman afterward. But I don't know. Ken Holland, to me, has had a great long career. But again, some of these older guys just don't have a recently good track record. To me, towards the end of his time in Detroit, things weren't going well. Not well with drafting, not well with free agents, not well with a lot of things. Goes to Edmonton. I don't really think he had that great of a run there. There's a reason why they didn't stick with him too long. I don't know. Just to me, I'm like, is there nobody else? You're not really willing to go with a younger, fresher approach, but he's got a great resume, long track record. We'll see what happens. Obviously, they don't think the same way as I do on that, but the Kings are expected to announce Holland as GM here sometime soon. So we'll see. That means he's out in some other roles, like he was rumored to be getting interest from a team like Buffalo and the Islanders. The Sabres definitely do want to bring in some sort of executive to work over Kevin Adams, but we don't really have any further speculation on who that could be here at this time. Besides, Holland was the only one we really have heard about. I think they had reached out to Kyle Okposo, who then took a job with the league. I don't know if he was going to be in that role, but some kind of role within the organization. But otherwise, we're not really sure what the Sabres are doing. When it comes to the Islanders, been lots of different updates between Arthur Staple, Chris Botta. It sounds like the fact that ownership is willing to keep around Lou Lamoriello in some capacity. is having a major impact on who kind of wants or doesn't want the job. Obviously, Lou Lamoriello has had control of this team for an extended period of time. Speculation led to be realized at the end of the year that Lamoriello was confirmed to be out as GM, but now maybe still in a role as an advisory type of position. It's just hard to imagine that a GM is going to want to come in and take over a team that he built. And we know he's 80 years old. He's known to be quite a, set in his ways. Is he really going to be, if he's the advisor to ownership, is he really going to be for kind of undoing a lot of what he did there? It just seems odd. And I think a lot of senior experienced GMs who might be interested, like a Marc Bergevin, like a Jarmo Kekalainen, might not be thrilled with that setup. Apparently their top guy with the Islanders was Jeff Gorton. That's who they probably preferred. But of course, he doesn't seem to have any interest in leaving Montreal. I believe that permission to speak with him between himself and the Canadiens was denied. And not like, he doesn't want to leave his post. So we'll see. I mean, from what we've heard, they've been having difficulty filling the role with some preferred people because of the involvement of Lou and just how they're going about things there. So it's just kind of crazy. I can't believe after all this, I understand you have a lot of respect for Lou. He's had a great career, but at what point are you just going to give him thank you card and a nice parting gift and be like, you know what, we appreciate everything you did for us, Lou. You came to us, especially during a tough time of transition. Thank you very much, but it's time to move on and just be done. Rip the Band-Aid off. I don't get it. But Marc Bergevin, Jarmo Kekalainen, and Matthew Darche is expected to interview with the Islanders this week. So, obviously, like I said, with Gorton and Holland definitely out of the mix and no chance that's happening, they're probably going to have to go back to some of these guys and see. Now, I know Chris Botta had talked to a source as well. I believe it was someone who knew Darche well from Tampa and absolutely gave him a glowing review for his work and reference and all that, and said he would be phenomenal for them. And whenever he gets his chance to be a GM, it's expected he's going to do great things. So if they really want to be progressive and go with a new, younger approach, then Darche might be that guy, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. Now, as I mentioned, lots of different speculation about trades that can happen in the offseason. We'll start with Pittsburgh and then Anaheim. A couple of updates here from Dave Pagnotta, thefourthperiod.com. With the Penguins, a couple of things. One, he says that they are definitely exploring an Erik Karlsson trade. Again, because of his salary and everything, it's complicated, so it doesn't mean for sure that it's going to happen. But Kyle Dubas and his staff definitely talking to Karlsson and his camp about some options. I guess we'll see. At this point in the offseason, you're not going to get much activity, just a lot of chatter until we get a little further along into May, early part of June. Then you're going to start to see a little bit of activity. Then it'll probably build up through the month as we get closer to the draft. But Karlsson is definitely a player who's had a phenomenal career, great offensively, not as great defensively. We know that. But the Penguins, to me, are a team that's definitely in transition. It's the move away from Mike Sullivan, to me, signals that it's going to be definitely more of a rebuild. Sullivan and Dubas reportedly did not agree on the direction of the team, which is part of what led to them parting ways with Sullivan after all that time. So Karlsson's on the block, but complicated nonetheless. He also says that his latest intel telling him at fourthperiod.com that this very well could be the farewell tour coming up of Evgeny Malkin with the Penguins. It's the final year of his contract. He's 38 years old, and many are expecting this to be his last NHL season. I'm not sure if he, like Ovechkin, has the same aspirations to go back and play a season or two in Russia before he's fully done, or if he'll completely hang him up altogether. I don't know, but it sounds like this is going to be it for him. So you take away a potential Karlsson trade, and then, of course, if this is it for Malkin, it makes you wonder about the future of Crosby. I mean, again, I know everything we've ever heard about Crosby sure sounds like he doesn't want to leave, but like you said, we've had it from guys like Friedman himself, wondering if guys like his friends like McKinnon, who he's playing with at the World Championships right now, will try to talk to him and be like, listen, it's better for the game if you're in the playoffs. Why don't you come play with me in Colorado or what have you? We can team up and try to get another cup before it's over. I mean, again, no speculation that that's being discussed or anything, but it just makes you wonder as you hear about, Karlsson might be moved, Malkin might be done this year. is there any chance Sid's going to change his mind? That would be a storyline to follow, but it could be a long-term storyline. We don't know. Because I think at this point, Crosby could still play for quite a while, assuming everything stays good with his health, which he's been fortunate to do here for quite some time. Another update from Dave Pagnotta as well in the Anaheim Ducks, wondering if this might be the time that we finally get in the next number of weeks here leading into the summer. A John Gibson trade. He's nearing the end of his contract as well. Obviously played a lot better this past season, although he did get hurt a few times. But there's definitely teams out there that need some upgrades in goal. And Gibson could be one of those guys that, you kind of take a flyer on. It's a short-term contract now. And if he can stay healthy, which has been a struggle of his career, then maybe you get yourself a revitalized goaltender in a new spot. Obviously being from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, would he want to go home to a team like the Penguins or to like the Flyers or any of those teams in the East that definitely are going to be looking for some goaltending changes for sure. So again, this is the time that Pagnotta's hearing that the Ducks are definitely going to be exploring a Gibson trade, and given where his contract and his play has been, it just seems like if it's ever going to happen, this is it. Otherwise, he's going to be heading for free agency eventually. Another article I came across today was the Vancouver Canucks, as we know, are going to be looking to make some moves this offseason. They're definitely a team in transition as well. When it comes to Brock Besser, we had heard that is there a chance he could stay? There's been reports of that in recent days, and it sure seems like the only way I guess there's two ways really, but the main way is he's quite curious to see who the new coach is going to be. I think he got along pretty well with Tocchet. Before that, he got along well with Boudreau. But depending on who that new coach is and how he sees where he could fit and how they would play and what they would want and expect from him might dictate if he's willing to stay or not. I know that the Canucks are definitely going to be pushing to make Quinn Hughes happy, as we know that's going to be their biggest focus here in the next year or so, to make him happy so he doesn't want to bolt to free agency or it has to be traded to go join his brothers, which has been a big topic since Jim Rutherford opened his mouth a few weeks ago. But, obviously Besser, from comments from GM Patrick Alvin, they said that they were going to try to take another stab at it to see if there's any chance he could stay. But the belief is from the local media guys there in Vancouver is that the main way that's going to happen is if based on feedback from his agent, if they don't think they're going to get the bigger contract elsewhere and whoever the coach is. So again, there's probably going to be teams that are willing to overpay Besser, like Nick Ehlers and others, because it's a thin scoring market when it comes to scoring wingers on the UFA world. So again, we'll see what happens there. And of course, we know that the center position is definitely an area of focus for the Canucks this year. The article I came across today was wondering if they may target a team like Tampa. Of course, Tampa, as we know, is a pretty deep team, had a disappointing playoff run. They haven't really done a lot in the playoffs the last few years. There was some speculation about John Cooper, and as much as that's pretty well put to bed that he's going to stay there, I know there was the rumor we talked about yesterday from the New York Post saying, could he end up being an executive with the Islanders? That was more of an opinion from Larry Brooks. I don't think he really had the intel saying that was being actively discussed, but that if Cooper was approached that he may be interested type of thing. But the Lightning, though, as we know, might make some changes. And if they're going to make some trades and shake things up, which we don't know for sure if they're going to do it, but if they do, there's only a couple of players that don't have a lot of trade protection, and that's guys like Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel. Now, I'm sure deep down that the Lightning would probably prefer not to move either of those guys. They've been great players for them. Cirelli, of course, is a Selke-nominated centerman, a great two-way hockey player, but it could be a target for Vancouver. Doesn't mean they're going to get it done because it's probably going to be a very high cost. But the Lightning only have they have less than $7 million in cap space. They've got 4 or 5 players that need contracts. We know that, again, they've had a similar approach to the Leafs, that they're pretty kind of a little bit top heavy, and if the supporting cast tends to change from year to year, trying to find bargain deals to kind of round things out. And they very well could continue with that and not move any core pieces. I know they really like Cirelli there, so again, I don't know that they're really going to be interested in that, but it does make sense that Vancouver would target him and see if they can pry him away. But what would they have to give up is the question. It would not be cheap. He'd be a phenomenal number 2 center for them behind Pettersson. If Pettersson can get back to being a 100-point player, that would be a great 1-2 punch. But it's probably a little bit of a pipe dream. But I can see teams targeting the Lightning because of their lack of cap space to see if they can't pry a good player out of that roster. It just depends on who that is and what exactly the cost is. We saw them trade Sergachev. Obviously brought back McDonough. We know they're not afraid to make bold moves there. Julian Breezeball has done it before, but it's going to be tricky. I don't know if Cirelli is the guy they really want to move, but then again, didn't think that about Sergachev, didn't think that about Stamkos, and they did it anyway. So we'll see what happens. And in Montreal, is this the end of the road for Caden Primeau with the Habs? I mean, clearly going into next year, Samuel Montembeault's got the number one job in that lockdown. That's pretty safe to say. And besides that, you got Dobush, who kind of had his ups and downs a little bit, but wasn't too bad at the NHL level. Jacob Fowler, of course, is signed after the college season. Hasn't played a ton in the AHL, but has looked pretty good. Right now, you could see him being a pretty decent number 3 in the organization next year. So what happens to Caden Primeau? Is Caden Primeau going to play more in this playoff run? And even if he does, because they're still in the AHL playoffs, but regardless of how much he plays or how much they play Fowler, is it going to matter, or is it really going to, have any effect on his future? And the answer is probably not. He's a pending restricted free agent, and it seems like it's real possible that they either don't qualify him and he walks, or they trade his signing rights and try to get something small in return. Maybe another team, I'm sure at this rate, probably would be willing to take a chance on him for a small return. But you have to think that in Montreal, if I had to bet what they're going to do, they've obviously got a few things on their plate, but when it comes to goaltending, I would seriously consider trying to bring in a veteran goalie on a cheaper contract, preferably for 1 year, no more than 2, but preferably 1, and have that be a backup mentor type guy to Montembeault, somebody that you can trust playing, 25, 30 games, who's got enough experience that Montembeault can still draw upon that, because he's still, younger-ish. He's not an old goalie, not really a brand new young goalie either, but somebody that's, a little more experienced than him that you can bank on. And then, that way it takes the pressure off Dobush. It creates competition for Dobush in training camp, which I think is very healthy. It also takes the pressure off him that you can have a Fowler-Dobush tandem in Laval. Then you've got 2 guys up and coming battling for ice time there. You get an NHL tandem battling for ice time there. To me, it just makes you deeper in the organization as a whole and creates more competition, which I think is really, really good. Who that goalie is hard to say. I really honestly think that ever since they treated Jake Allen that they had regrets. So I do. He's a free agent now. I don't know if they want to entertain that, but something along those lines. If they can get like a 1-year deal at $1 million, $1.5 million, like something cheaperish like that for a veteran goalie to the backup Montembeault, so that, like I said, it creates competition and everything for Dobush, and maybe he spends more time in the AHL. To me, that's not a bad idea. So it kind of cuts out a spot for Primeau. Is he going to be 5th on the pecking order? Probably not. So I suspect that Primeau's time in Montreal, regardless of what he does or doesn't do in the AHL playoffs, is probably coming to a close. I think if he does get some more playing time and can prove himself that he's at least good at that level, then I suspect that at the very least you're going to see, that maybe be able to trade his signing rights and maybe get a little something back after all this time they've spent putting in, helping him develop. But we'll see. I think his time in the organization, one way or another, is coming to a close. Let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.